Alright guys, here's the second part of the third question. Discuss whether trade arrangements such as European Union or South Asian Free Trade Area encourage or discourage the benefits of free trade. So basically they want us to talk about what is basically they want us to understand, they want to check the understanding that if we know that how many types of trade agreements are there, how many types of trade integrations or economic integrations do exist in the market. So the very first thing that we have to answer is about the type of trade agreements. Then we have the advantages of such trade agreements, and of course since this is a 12 marks question, so we have to evaluate, we have to even give a critical analysis about the trade agreement. So we'll also be talking about the disadvantages or the drawbacks of the free trade agreements. So starting with the first component of the answer, which can help you in gaining up to 4 marks out of 12 marks. We'll discuss about the type of trade agreements. As you know that we have studied in the class, we have studied in detail all 4 types of trade agreements. Of course you don't have to answer in that much of a detail, but of course you'll give a moderate detail of each component or each type of a trade agreement. So the first one is free trade area, which means that two countries decide to have a free trade between themselves. So for example, Pakistan and Iran decides to have a free trade between both of them. There will be no tariffs or duties or quotas or any kind of trade restriction on Pakistan exporting to Iran or Iran exporting to Pakistan. So that is known as a free trade between both the countries. But at the same time, they are eligible of making their own and independent trade policies with other countries around the world. So this is the first type. Then we have the second type, which is custom union. Custom union is same as free trade agreement. We only add one more factor, one more component, that is that they make a joint trade policy for the other countries. So for example, Pakistan and Iran, and if they decide that they want to trade with each other, they will have a free trade with each other. But if they decide they want to trade from let's say Turkey, so they will have a single policy or a single type of tariff or duties or quota system to import from Turkey or any other country that they decide to import from. So this is the second type. Then we have common markets. Common market is the next step. Common market means that since these two countries have two different economies, they actually virtually merge both the economies in form of a single market. So basically we can mobilize, we can move factors of production from one economy to the other economy. So for example, if there is an investor in Iran and they want to invest in Pakistan, so they can do it freely. If someone from Pakistan want to establish a factory in Iran, they can do it freely. So land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, you can move any factors of production between these two countries because they are acting as a single market. And then we have the fourth one and the strongest economic union, which the strongest one is the economic union. And what is economic union? Economic union is basically when two countries or more than two countries actually completely integrate themselves and make a single economic policy, which is not only confined to the customs union or the common markets or the trade, but the entire economy. So the best example is European Union. The countries who are the members of European Union are integrated not only by trade policies but economics policies as well. And they're not only integrated by the economic policies, they do even have a common currency which is known as euro. So this is the last and the strongest agreement or kind of a union between countries who are under a trade agreement. So this modest detail of these 4 types of trade agreement can help you in gaining up to 4 marks. Now let's talk about the rest of 8 marks that we have for a 12-mark question. First, we have talked about the type of trade agreements. Now we are going to talk about the advantages. So what are the advantages of free trade? The first and the foremost advantage is price transparency. Now how? I'll explain you. See, if you are importing something from USA and the price in USA for that product is in Pakistani rupees, the price for that product in USA is, let's say, 10,000. But when we import in Pakistan, we purchase the same product from Pakistan, we might purchase it for 15,000 rupees. Now, what is the reason? The reason is that we have to pay the import duties, we have to pay the transportation cost, we have to pay taxes, and now it depends if it is a luxurious product or a necessity, or depends on many factors. And the overall cost when included in those basic price of 10,000 will make it 15,000. But it is very confusing for people of different countries to understand that what kind of a cost is added, whether the cost that we are paying for a product is feasible and a correct price, or are we purchasing the product much more expensive than we should have purchased it. But in free trade agreement, these types of confusions related to tariffs and taxes and exchange rate, even exchange rate, they do not exist. So first of all, it is very easy for people to cross-check the prices in different economies from the origin of the product. Like, for example, if the product is being made in Italy and somebody in Spain is buying the product, so they will easily know that what is the price of the product, and nobody can fool them, like nobody can confuse them about the pricing of that specific product. Then we have less uncertainty of exchange rate fluctuation. See, if there is a European, so if there is an economic union, so of course there's no hassle about there's no worry about the exchange rate. Why? Because they are using the same currency. But when you have a free trade agreement, when you have a free trade agreement between two or more countries, what happens that the trade or the policies are in harmony between these countries, and as a result their exchange rate do not fluctuate very often. There is not a exchange rate shock between those countries, like as if there will be certain increase or a decrease in the price of or in the exchange rate of those two specific currencies. So there's a harmony in exchange rate, so less fluctuation, less uncertainty. Lower transactional cost. It means since both the countries are not putting any tariffs, any duties, any taxes, the banks between both the countries will facilitate the customers in a better way. So the transactional cost, overall transactional cost is very low, which is beneficial for both the countries, for the consumer of both the countries. Then the next advantage is trade creation. Now we have studied that in the class. What is trade creation? Trade creation is basically, for example, if you previously were producing paper in Pakistan, and now you have a free trade agreement with Indonesia. So Indonesia is better at making paper. So what will happen that Pakistan will prefer that Indonesian should produce all paper, and all papers that were previously produced in Pakistan should be produced by Indonesia. And let's say Indonesia was cultivating mangoes, let's just take that example, and they will now prefer that all the mangoes should be cultivated in Pakistan. So basically what is happening, that the trade is being created. We are purchasing papers from Indonesia and we are selling them mangoes. So what is happening here, we can include the point about comparative advantage. So both the countries can exploit their comparative advantage and can produce the greater world output. So you can include that point as well along with trade creation. Now we'll talk about the evaluation part. Okay, this part can help you in getting 4 to 5 marks at max. Now disadvantage. Now what are the disadvantages? So once we are evaluating these things that we have written in these two parts, we'll talk about the drawbacks of free trade. Of course, everything comes with the advantages as well as disadvantages. So let's talk about the drawbacks of free trade. So the first drawback is when we discussed about trade creation, we talked about that we might shift few businesses to other countries. So what will happen, that once we move those businesses to other countries, for example, the paper industry is moved, the production is moved to Indonesia. So what will happen, that our industry will shut down, and of course people who are related to that specific field, who are specialized in paper production, will be unemployed. So it will create industry shutdown and unemployment. That is a disadvantage or a drawback. Then the economic policies of these countries are actually dependent on each other. They cannot make independent policies because they are in agreement with each other. So if, for example, Pakistan can benefit by exporting something to another country, for example India, but Indonesia is in very good terms with India, let's say, so they will have a very lenient economic policy for India, so Pakistan has to have a lenient policy with India as well. So the policies with other countries are dependent on the policies of the partner countries, so that is also one of the disadvantages. Then we have unequal advantage. So if one country is very good at producing many things and the other country is not very good at producing many things, so the country with a good production reputation will have more advantage than the other country. So that is also one of the point, unequal advantages for many countries in these kind of agreements. Then we have trade diversion. Now what is the concept of trade diversion? That for example, if Pakistan and Indonesia are in agreement, and what happens that Malaysia is even better than Indonesia in producing papers, but what will happen that Pakistan, due to free trade agreement and no tariff policy and no quota policy, will prefer getting the product made from Indonesia rather than Malaysia. So we are dropping out a better producer with a better comparative advantage just because that country is not a partner in that specific agreement. So that is known as trade diversion, which is also one of the disadvantages. So if you're going to write these points, inshallah, you're going to get 12 out of 12 marks in this part of the question. Thank you.